So, topic.
Have you started every single question with so?
Can you just let me talk?
So, new topic? New start? Okay. And take 7.
Bitches.
That's stereotyping. Oh, no.
No, it's okay. I am joking.
You know, so.
It's on your
Okay,
Girl Scout
so
badge.
we're going to talk about people of color, law enforcement, all of the amazing things that are going on in society today and yesterday. Off to you, Mary.
What the what?
Always the pass to Mary.
What?
Get it in early.
Oh my God.
I need to hear you speak.
Do you? Do you really? You are right now. Okay, and
Sick. I don't know. I feel like as far as like
He took it.
today and yesterday, like every day is truly a step forward. We are changing the conversation, but dear God, this is a garbage conversation to be having. Like, and the
You're
fact
so
that
millennial optimist.
the fact that no, like within statistics, like the fact that we are looking at it as a problem is and not as like a problem from like we're in our houses hiding. This is a problem, Anne Frank style. But like it is a problem that we get to have a conversation in public, that we get to have a conversation in policy about. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Seattle Police Department has had the Justice Department in it for like the last 10 years because of their just race bullshit. Like because apparently killing black people was fun in Seattle up until recently. My old boss's son was beaten down on like 4th and Pike, just and like to the point of brain injury. 10 years ago? We've had two giant wars against the police where there's been bloodshed on both sides just in my lifetime, just in the Seattle area. And I'm not from Seattle. This is just me doing my homework before I moved there. But it is in no way, shape, or form better, but we have started a conversation. It sucks that we're still back here. Like we're still in the beginning. Like, and it's why we're so angry. That's why I'm so angry. Sorry.
I went to the Charlene Lyles protest. Well, actually, it was a vigil at first, and
They raised that bridge.
it got to a point where people were upset, people were angry, rightfully so, and so I think at the gathering there was, I want to say about 300 or 400 people, right? Once everything was done, once everyone said their piece, at least the people that were closest to her, they did this thing and they're like, we're not done yet, and literally started walking out from the place, the apartment complex where the vigil was held. And we started walking down, I forgot the name of the street, but it was near UW, around that area. And we are walking down the street, and there's just like a little bunch of us. And then all of a sudden, I look back, and there are tons more people behind me, to the thousands, like thousands and thousands of people coming. They're seeing us march, and we're all walking. And my son is there too with me. And he understood everything that was going on. He knew why we were marching. And we finally got to University of Washington, right? And it was great, because even the cars were getting out of the way. Like, you had those few that were honking their horns and everything, but a lot of them saw what was going on. They didn't know what was going on, but it was nice that you had people informing them, and they were okay. We finally got to a point at University of Washington, and we had to stop because there was this big police barricade. And it was the first time I've ever been involved in a march that ended in a police barricade, in any of the marches that I've ever done. And I was scared. I was so scared because of the way of things that have been happening in society, on the news, every single day. That's been more and more publicized. And I literally, there was something that came over me where it was like, this is the moment where you fight or flight, honestly, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, where that was going to go. I didn't know if there was going to be a situation where they're throwing out, whatever, tear gas or whatever happens at events and everything. But the thing that we heard after we kept chanting, her name was Charlena, over and over again. Someone from that side, one of the captains, he said, "You guys got what you wanted. We're going to have a hearing for the police officers that, they heard with the tapes and everything." And I look at my son, and he had these tears in his eyes, which is weird because he doesn't cry. And it just made me it made me understand that the decision I made to bring him there was the right decision. Because you never know if your kids are old enough or young enough for things that are going on in this day and age and everything. And I was so happy that they got it. They understood. They knew that we weren't there to fight. They just knew that we were there to be heard and to be understood. And so literally as soon as that was done, everyone turned around and walked right back to their respectful cars and everything. And me and my kid, we were talking about it and everything. And it was honestly like the first time I had faith somewhat restored in the world today. Just because, just then, just seeing it happen, this woman who's pregnant, who called the police to come and protect her, did exactly the opposite. And then to hear an audio of them laughing, about the situation or about the woman, before they even understood what was going on or anything, it broke my heart. It really did. But thank you, Washington, or at least at that day and time, for having restored just a little bit of faith back into what I thought was escaping humanity, because that was probably, besides the Women's March, one of the best demonstrations I've been a part of without it actually being called a demonstration in the beginning. Sorry to bring the mood down.
No, you're fine. I've never had the experience of driving while black. I normally, not normally, that's not a word I use. Most of my friends are white. So I've never really had that fear that many people of color do. I have been on 3rd and Pike and 3rd and Pine.
Oh.
And I will say that statistically, and I hate to say this, but statistically, every single time I've been catcalled, and the one time I was held up working at a gas station, they have all been perpetrated by black men. And I am sorry to say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
But by the same token, one of my freelance jobs is driving, just transferring cars from one point to another. And usually that's between downtown and the airport. Mm. So this past summer, I was doing that. I was heading from the airport area, driving one of my cars that I was supposed to transfer, and heading onto the expressway ramp. I see this car pulled over, and it's an older looking kind of beater car or whatever, and there are 2 black people inside, a woman and a man. And I look around again, there's a security car, and at least 2 sheriff's SUVs and a cop-like sedan for this one car that was pulled over.
Yep.
And I was so mad at myself that I was on the job and I had to take that ramp to keep traffic moving and to keep going. Mm-hmm. But all I wanted to do was stay there and just be witness to whatever would go down.
Yeah.
Yep. I say the worst part about driving while black is when you have a drunk white friend in the car that is on your side. because so
Oh my
by the time I was 23, my DWB card had been punched through, and it was every night that I was the designated driver up in Bellingham, getting pulled over with my drunk white friends in the car, being like, "You don't know why you pulling him over," and I'm just like, guys, this is the dance. Like, they're gonna pull me over. I'm gonna be sober. They're going to let me go. You're not helping.
Yes.
Like, and my last driving while black was, I have a hat that is just the African colors. It's black, red, and green. And it's just those three bands, and I finally found it. Like, my kid had hid it from me at his mom's place, and I finally found it, and I'm wearing it away. I just dropped him off at school, and I get pulled over, and the two cops come out, and the one comes up to the door and starts asking me questions, and I notice that the other one has gotten out of the car, and he's standing at like the 5 o'clock position in that blind spot on the car, right as the second SUV pulls up in front of me, like facing me, so I'm now pinched in. And the white lady walking her dog by, after like minute 5 of this, that made eye contact with me and then looked down and kept walking, I will never forgive her. I will never forgive her, because the only thing I needed at that point in time was just any one person to stay there. Because it was now 4v1. And all I needed, and I did my standard politeness, handed them my things. They didn't take me out of the car this time. That was nice of them. It was early. I had not had my coffee yet. But it's become an incredibly casual part of my life that I expect to happen, and that bothers me. But I don't know. It's in the endless sea of picking my own battles. I don't know if I can pick that one up and it be not too much keeping it. Like, that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. If I decide that this is the one, this driving while black is the thing that I also have to pick up, I don't know if I'm strong enough to carry that as well.
And it's hard enough as it is to be a woman in a patriarchal society. It's doubly hard when you're not white.
Yeah.
Like, or you can't pass for white.
Yeah. I mean, and then you go into the topics of Black Lives Matter. And oh God.
Yeah.
I was driving, oh my God. So I was driving on my way to Victoria, and I forgot the name of the town that's there right before you hit the ferry area up there. And there's this huge barn, and all it says is Blue Lives Matter. And I'm just like, I don't know why. I mean, I understand that phrase just, it makes me so angst, and a lot, it just comes from such ignorance that the fact that like people do not seem to understand why BLM is such an important phrase and why the movement is so important. I already talked about what with Charlene and everything. What do you guys have to say?
I don't know. You're going to have to skip me because I have a lot of feelings.
Oh, please share them. I'll let you think about it. I'll let you think about it for a bit. I can say that I'm sitting back here and I'm listening to you guys, and I'm kind of honestly fighting back a little bit of tears, because it actually hurts me hearing my friends go through stuff like that, and knowing that I don't have to do that. I've never, cop comes to my door because I'm going 15 miles over the speed limit. I hand him my driver's license and insurance, and he goes, okay, slow down. I don't have to do that. Yeah. I don't have to, and I'm like, that there's some part of me that kind of goes, I wish I did. And there's a part of me that says, I am glad I don't. Yeah. But that when I say I'm glad I don't, actually kind of hurts because I'm like,
Nobody wants to be in that.
I'm
kind
like,
of
and I don't, but I
situation.
don't want my friends to be that as well, and that bugs me. That hurts. I would say, in a situation where I'm like, I never even thought about even stopping, watching. I mean, if I'm in my car, I'm usually in my car when I'm going. But I mean, there have been places where I've been public, and I'm going to stand there. I'm going to be there if I can. But no, I'm just like, but yeah, I would totally be a bad passenger for you. I'm like, he's
Like, I know
What you think you
I
do?
know I'm not doing
I'm like,
anything wrong.
he's
He knows I'm not doing anything
You pull him over. He was going like 2 miles over the speed limit.
I'm driving
Why
while
you
black
pull him
is we all agreed I wasn't doing anything wrong. This is just a moment out of my day that they decided they owned for a
Yeah.
second. Like,
Yeah.
this is just, I just apparently got too far away from that field, and Mammy needed me to get back in there and get that back 40 picked real quick. Like, something, like, it's that about of ownership, and it's rough, but I just, like, it's not, I still can't pick up that cross. Like, I hate it. I truly do. But I mean, for me, it's almost a formality right now. It harkens back to the days of old where you'd have to like check your, like, where's your papers?
Yeah.
That's not even the days of old. Harkens back to like 15 minutes ago for somebody in Arizona.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
where's your papers? Like, it's a
Yep.
where it is the African, it is the black, sorry, because it's not just African Americans that go through it. It is the black American, like, where's your papers?
Yeah.
Because it's not another
Yes.
country they want to send us to. It is a jail.
Yeah.
It is a system they want us to be part in, that to take away not just our lives, because the amount of time that we spend in a situation doesn't matter as much as the fact that we will then not be allowed to vote.
Yep.
We won't be allowed to live places, and they at the same time get to say, we caught him. We caught a bad one.
You also won't be allowed to carry your own weapon, your own form of protection. It kills me that I have to tell my son that I don't want him to drive because I'm scared of what will happen to him if he's pulled over, which doesn't make any sense because they are supposed to be our protectors, not
We're
our
literally
hunters.
paying them
Yeah.
to be
But-
our protectors.
Exactly.
And then from my point of view on this one, it makes me angry because there's nothing I really can do
Yeah.
to stop it.
I mean,
And I'm like, so I just have to tolerate it from you, and I'm like, that's something for me that I'm like, that's like part of the reason why I'm here. I will not tolerate somebody doing that to my family.
now, if
No.
you're in the car, might not need to say something. But if you are out of the car, you can yell, scream, and data.
Yeah.
That is our, like, every time I see another video, I am so sad, but I am so happy they exist now.
Yes.
Because for so long,
Yes.
especially black women have been saying they're killing our babies.
Yes.
And everybody's been like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, wait, hold on, 1 second. Wait, how long have you been saying this?
Yeah.
Like, there's that moment, like, that first video came out, you see that black man dead, but they're out there throwing flowers, like, we told you! We told you! Rice, flowers, we made it! Like,
I swear. Yeah.
It was such a moment of relief because it's that moment where
All this
you
time.
realize that you're being gaslit,
Yeah.
where everybody at the same time is like, gaslighting's real.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, I mean, I feel like they statistically, I hate to take this stance, but I feel like there might actually be a thing where somebody is behind a closed door saying, well, we put him in prison for a while, all these young black men. Well, what's going to happen if we don't put him in prison? Well, let's just kill him off.
Yeah. Or they're going to procreate.
Let's
Take
just,
over.
Let's just like, give him one more reason.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't remember what state it was, but like just last week, there was a judge that got in trouble or came back into the news because he was giving people like 30 days off their sentence just to get sterilized real quick. Yeah.
Okay. So here's my thing. My mother was a Detroit cop. Most of my family, they're from Detroit. A lot of them were sheriffs, cops. Around the time where crime was even more rampant. And to hear them say that things are way worse now than they were back when they were actively working is alarming. I was driving home from rehearsal. I was in a theater show a couple years ago. Driving home, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I may have forgotten or whatever. I thought my lights were on, but I didn't turn them all the way on. So the cop pulls me over. I nearly had a panic attack because I literally thought I was going to die. I pull over, and two of the cops came to, each side of the car. I roll down the window, and they see that I'm already in tears. And they're like, do you know why we pulled you over? I said, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. I was like, please, can I just make it home? Can I just make it home? And they're like, oh, well, we just pulled you over because you didn't turn on your lights. I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't even focus on trying to find my driver's license. I can't focus on finding my registration because all I can think about is my life. For me, it's life and death. And the cops knew that I was scared for my life. They knew, and they tried so hard to be like, hey, just, take a breath, take a breath. I said, I'm so sorry, I just don't want to die. I'm sorry, I just don't want to die. I just don't want to die. And they're like, well, where are you coming from? I said, I'm coming from the theater house. And they're like, oh. As soon as I said that, oh, I'm coming from rehearsal, whatever perception they had of me completely changed. And then when I finally composed myself and gave them, my papers, like you said, they're like, okay, ma'am, I know, that this may seem scary. We're not trying to scare you. I said, I'm so sorry, but you are really scary to me. Am I going to make it home? So that's where I'm at with the police, is I'm scared.
I had one thank me because whenever I get pulled over, I keep my wrists on the wheel with my hands up. And I had a cop thank me for doing that. And his acknowledgement of my surrender that way was kind of that for me. Was that the moment, because it wasn't, he was just like, thank you for keeping your hands on the wheel. And that was that moment where I like went through the rest of the thing, and I didn't know if in a parallel dimension where everything's similar to this, except for my hands were on the wheel, that I didn't make it home that night.
I have to mention that, something like that though. If you go over, watch or read like a manual, like when you take your driver's ed, they have a thing like if you're being approached by a police officer, what to do now. And the first thing they tell you to do is keep your hands on the wheel. And I actually think that's that's what I was taught. Mm-hmm. So when I ever get pulled over, it's always, I do the same thing. But I know that's, for you, mm-hmm. that's a completely different feeling. For me, I'm like, oh, that's just what I'm supposed to do. For you, you were just, as you said, you were surrendering. And that's...
So I
want
to
I
want to say something. We were talking about this before. Me and some other friends, and one of my friends reached out to me and sent me a message, and that's pretty much why I was looking at my phone. There is an app out there. It is called Solomon's Shield. And what it does is, as soon as you get pulled over, you're doing everything else, right? But this app actually lets you press a button, and it literally sends a video to every single form of social media that's out there. and records your interaction, everything. So that way, if it's already out there, you don't have to worry about trying to pull up Facebook or Facebook Live or anything like that. You press one button and it automatically sends your entire interaction with you and, you know, whoever, police, crazy standby, someone, you know, hitchhiker or whatever, to every single social, I believe it's it says record the whole conversation with law enforcement in audio and video. And it's literally the touch of one button. And my friend was like, send this to your son, make sure he downloads it. If you are that worried about him driving, because I refuse to let him drive by himself. If you're worried about him driving, make sure he has this app handy. So that way he has some form of safety and everything. And it touched me because she's not a POC person. She's not, you know, she identifies as a Caucasian person. And so it was just nice of her to know or find out about that and then send me the information so that I would have my own peace of mind if, you know, my son was ever in a situation like that.
What was it recently? There were like a couple of shows featured black men talking about how they were raised to what to do when you get pulled over. They have their own set of guidelines for young black men who get pulled over, and they're raised with that. And that, I mean, seeing that just like was an eye-opener. I was like, my brother who's white was never taught that. He never had to be taught that.
Yeah.
And what was the meme too that like, what was the meme too where a woman who I believe her beau and child were in the car, and she was doing everything she should have done, and she was very calm and really respectful to the officer, but the officer had already shot her boyfriend or whatever.
Philando Castile.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
That
sorry,
was
the
Philando.
names
No, that's fine.
escaped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got them tattooed on the back of my eyelid so I could cheat it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do you do in the face of that when
your child
the
is there.
officer is more irrational? They're getting paid to be irrational
Yeah.
and go against their training just because of what?
Yeah, it's implicit bias. It's a bunch of different stuff, and I want to stay away from just academiaing it because
Yeah.
this is more like I remember the first time I knew that I didn't have the same relationship with the police as my mom. My mom is 5'2" and white and has 2 half black children that outgrew her by 10. Like she is the snowflake. She is tiny and adorable. And we all love her most of the time. But we were going to a little league baseball game, and my mother was pulled over. She was driving. I was like 11, and she was asked to get out of the vehicle. And all my brother and I could hear was, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm just driving my kids to baseball." She's like, "I just wanted to make sure that you were all right." Because these 2 tiny African-American children had kidnapped her, put her in a vehicle, put her in a vehicle, and we're forcing her to drive us to this baseball game.
Yeah.
We gonna make it. But that was like, so my all-white family, like it was something that we, like onto that show, there's also a commercial of the mom sitting in the car with her daughter being like, having the talk.
Yep.
And it's the first time
The
that
YouTube link.
the talk is it's no longer a talk about sex. The talk in the African community, people of color community is now, which has always been the talk about police, it is now publicly the talk about police.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been in my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that talk, before I even had the talk about sex.
Yeah. Yeah. And the YouTube video that I shared with you guys too, it's literally like, it's not teaching them how to drive. It's teaching them how to be safe. and to come back home. You know, and when one of the moms said those words, you know, it hit me so hard because it's real.
Yeah.
It's so real, and it's what exists and happens in this world right now, and it's a shame. It's a real shame that that's the case, but all we can do is just fight as much as we can and make sure that people are woke, because it's, you know, we've been saying this for so long, and now you know, people are recognizing it, and they're not going to believe it unless it's publicized on social media or, you know, whatever. And you can't just be based on your word. You know, they have to see video proof or video evidence. And a lot of the times these guys are still getting away with this stuff too, even if the evidence is out there. And
What's always crazy, what's crazy for me, and I understand why it's there in the grand scheme of things, the difference between murder and manslaughter. Like murder, you have to prove intent to kill this person, like that they wanted to go out and kill them. And that manslaughter being a lesser charge is also something easier, not just for police officers, but for everybody to get off with. Like statistically, if you were charged with manslaughter, you have a much more, okay, accidents happen, kind of a thing. And
slap on the wrist.
Yeah, a slap on the wrist, accidents happen, all sorts of stuff like that. But like, at what point, how many people have to die for implicit bias, something we've already proved, for all of these things that we've already proved are making it intentional? At what point do we then get people brave enough, district attorneys brave enough to push murder, and juries brave enough and to understand that it is?
Genuine juries of our peers.
Any jury, like if an all-white jury came back with he murdered him, I'd be like, white people, we can hang out. Like, I'll give you 15 minutes of my time. We can talk about whatever you want. I'll let one of you touch my hair. That's it.
That is a lot.
This one over here. We can touch that one right there. Name's Mike.
Someone told me that they just recently was a part of a jury selection, and one of the prosecutors asked them if they believed in BLM, and that person was not asked to stay on the jury.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is a bunch of jury science out that indicates that African Americans are less likely to give you a guilty verdict and are therefore forced off of juries. African Americans and other people of color are generally not wanted to be under, and it's something common. It's something that's been taught and practiced. There's YouTube videos. They used to just be training videos for district attorneys, but now they're YouTube videos where it just says, "Sorry, but you're not going to want black people on your jury because they won't convict as easily."
Yeah.
Because we live in a species that loves the other as the villain.
Yeah.
Not something to learn, not something to try and understand or to learn from or to teach or anything. The other is the villain. Our history is written by winners of wars, and the other is cast off as a villain. Whether they were fighting for their own independence, whether they were just trying to keep what they had already been theirs, they are the villains. They were in the way of progress, and you wouldn't be here today if we didn't murder them all. Like that, yeah. And it's not over. It's the beginning. Like it's the beginning, and we have 3 generations of post-slavery African American women teaching their families that the police will kill them.
Yeah.
We were warriors during the civil rights movement. We had to be warriors, stand on lines and fight for what we believed in. And then the generation after that had to try and maintain and be warriors. They had to constantly fight to keep moving it forward. We hit the 80s, and between the gang violence that was going on in the cities, crack, which is a brilliant gift from our government, and the war against drugs, the war against our housing, drugs, the war against war against drugs that happen to be in Black people's hands, the war against all of these things, the amount of Klan members that then became senators at the state. Like we look at the federal government at the state level, became senators at the state level, and affected changes that take generations to get over. We had to be warriors. We hit the 90s, and we tried identifying ourselves through hip hop and other things, like which came from the 80s to the 90s. But in that, we also had to be warriors. We are generations of warriors constantly trying not to be dead. We are constantly taught that somebody will come to kill us. And I had to be taught by my white family that was my reality as well. Because fortunately, my uncle, who was raised in the South during desegregation, on the wrong side, by the way, knew that was a reality that I'd have to deal with. And when they come and they're like, why can't you get over it? I'm like, my grandmother, well, when I hear that was so long ago, when we hear, why can't you just get over it? It's like, because you have raised generations of people afraid that you're coming for them at any point in time. You dragged our grandmothers and grandfathers out of their houses and lynched them. You took our fathers and mothers to prison in droves.
And you taught us not to trust each other.
And you taught us
communities.
not to trust each other, and you did everything you could to destabilize us. Why in the last 15 minutes that we've all agreed that those things were bad, should those things just be dropped?
Yeah. So we should all be social justice warriors,
Social justice
mages, paladins.